welcome to a brand new episode of Soulfully Thorvi with your host Thorvi. Today's topic, recognition at first sight. What is forever? What does it really mean when someone says they love you forever? Or in wedding vows, people promise to be there forever? I feel it's a misunderstood term. I've been pondering over this and I had a series of questions arise. Is forever a measure of time? Can anyone measure forever? Is it relative, similar to time? Like, can it mean different things for each of us? For insects, it could mean a few days. For animals, a few years. And humans, a few decades. Does forever stop at death or go beyond death? Why does the human heart crave for a forever love, for a soulmate, for that one piece of puzzle that fits perfectly? It does not mean perfect compatibility in the current personality, but a perfect fit somehow within. The thought of forever then led me to the topic of soulmates and soul contracts. Have you ever felt like you did something out of the way for someone and then it seemed like you had fulfilled a promise? Or do you feel like you were waiting for someone to fulfill their end of the promise eons ago, like a vague feeling, not even knowing from whom you expected it? Sometimes you might have noticed that you connect with someone the minute you meet them. It is not always love, it is friendship, or even feelings of being siblings, but it's instant. People usually call it love at first sight, but I call it recognition at first sight. I have met many of my close friends like this. I just felt the connection beyond the present personalities, names, and backgrounds, a kind of knowing, and at times, even without meeting the person in person, just by the first phone call. The recognition over time led to close friendships, but the pull was instant. It was something you cannot ignore. And they have recounted it too. Maybe not in the same words, but something was there, which indicated we had not met for the first time. This recognition is beyond attraction, beyond hormonal rush, beyond just pleasing personalities. Because even after some relationships crashed and burned, the recognition was still strong. I remember how I met one of my close friends. We were both doing an internship in a prestigious institute and stayed at the same hostel. We would often look at each other and smile, standing in line for the breakfast or during dinner. After a few days, I just sat next to her at the table and we started talking. It felt so comfortable, so normal, so to speak, though I had technically just met her. We would later spend hours having conversations on all possible topics, and we stayed connected for many years following that. We are still good friends, but time, distance, and priorities have taken over. Pause this and think, do you have a similar story? The recognition is also not always mutual, and especially in a romantic sense, it can be so powerful that it causes confusion. The term love at first sight has got a bad reputation, and it usually means rushing into decisions that one regrets. But if you look at it for what it is, a recognition at first sight, your actions following it may or may not matter. We have multiple soulmates and countless soul contracts, promises and unfinished businesses. These relationships can take any form in the present life. Friendships, siblings, parenthood, colleagues, neighbors, romantic love, and even enemies. Ever instantly disliked a person for no reason, though you just met them? Our gut feelings are our notification system or alarm bells, and our intuition is our radar. I'm going to repeat that once again. Our gut feelings are our notification system or alarm bells, and our intuition is our radar. When you learn to develop this inner radar and alarm system, you become more sensitive to them, and they will serve you really well. I believe God did not send us on earth empty-handed. He installed systems of survival, and mainly the system of soul recognition, so we can find our soul tribes and fulfill our purpose. Alas, many wonderful could-haves are lost in the ifs and buts of the logical brain. If your radar picks up a soul recognition, look at your gut feeling, and depending on it, explore the possibilities. Talk to that person. Get to know them more. Remember, each soul connection has been placed on the timeline of our lives for a reason. They help us chart the course of this life. I truly believe nothing, especially no one, is random. People hesitate to even explore and try and open up, to even have an honest conversation for the fear of rejection. And it is not the teenagers, trust me, this is the age group that is supposed to be emotionally mature, our 30 pluses. Such a shame indeed. The fear is so gripping that some people cannot even initiate a conversation. I've seen it so many times, where the soul recognition is undeniable, but the other person just shuts down. I'm going to share a short story with you all. But a disclaimer, these are fictional characters and it's just a story. It has nothing to do with me. Alright, so Bhumi was a 30-year-old, successful, attractive young woman working for a multinational firm. She was single but had had her fair share of loves and breakups. She learned to handle emotions with maturity, to not run away and hide but deal with them head on. She was at this office party hanging around with her usual crowd. Then a colleague walked over and introduced Angad to the group. Angad had recently moved into the firm. He was at a higher post and worked for another team than Bhumi, but in the same office. They shook hands and their eyes met, and there it was, the feeling of soul recognition. It swept over them both, a strong, intense feeling that they knew each other. Bhumi was aware of her inner radar and alarm and sensed that this was indeed a soul recognition. She was happy and wanted to get to know him better. Angad, on the other hand, was overwhelmed. He had never felt anything so strong. Though he was successful, mature and confident externally, internally he had not learned to honor his radar. And though he knew that this was not just physical attraction, his logical brain said that must be it. What else can it be? He could not look into her eyes anymore. He immediately started having conversations with other colleagues. Later that day, he could not get her out of his mind. It perplexed him. Imagine physically he was like this 6 foot tall, muscular guy. In his career, he was so looked at, as being at a higher post and a leadership post. And here he was being unhinged at a single meeting. This was absurd. He knew this was not love at first sight, nor was it lust. Then what was it? As the days progressed, he would sometimes bump into her at work. They would have short conversations and he felt comfortable and would feel good after he met her. But he never initiated any conversation. He never attempted to explore this. He never tried to get to know her. He knew he liked her and he would look at her across the floor at office. He would stalk her on social media, but he would never send a friend request. He was acting so immature, but he was unwilling to do anything about it, as if it would disappear if it ignored it longer. Bhumi, on the other hand, could not understand why he was being so vague. He clearly liked her, but why was he holding back? Why could he not have a proper conversation with her? She got his number and messaged him, added him to social media. She tried initiating chats with him, and he would always breadcrumb her. So for those who don't know what is breadcrumbing, it's when you start to try and chat with someone and they just give you enough responses for your questions. They don't really get into a conversation. They keep you enough hooked so that you won't say that they didn't respond, but it's not a proper conversation. That is what is breadcrumbing. Eventually, she asked him out on a date because he wouldn't. And she really wanted to explore this, this connection. They met outside for lunch and they spent hours talking to each other. He was finally opening up. He really enjoyed the conversations, the food. The time just flew by. At the end of it, they decided that they would meet often. She was really happy and she saw hope for this relationship. She wanted to continue meeting and trying to explore this more. Angad, on the other hand, had different plans. By the time he drove home, his logical brain took over. He decided this was too good to be true. Here was a successful, beautiful woman. How could she like him so much? Did she just want money? Why did she ask him out? How was he so comfortable with her? No. She was too good to be true. The conclusion? Something was wrong with this connection. His only comparison, unfortunately, was a broken toxic relationship with his ex. And this was nothing like it. He started avoiding her, giving mixed signals and vague responses, and eventually stopped talking to her. Bhumi could not understand what happened. What went wrong? She was hurt and even angry at his immaturity, but she didn't want to confront him. They had just gone out on one date. Not everyone has the courage to live life. Most of them just pretend. They are outwardly perfect but internally immature. Does this story make any sense? Have you known a runner? Or worse, have you been the runner? Unless you give a possibility a chance, you will never know how it would have been. Moving away from someone because they are incompatible, now that is the sensible thing to do. But only after having conversations like adults, not ghosting someone, not by acting vague and ignoring them to the point that they give up. You owe a soul connection that much courtesy. If you have been a runner, stop and look within. Running away says more about your inner strength of character than the situation itself. There is so much inner work you need to do to train yourself to accept the inner radar and give another person a chance by getting to know them, having meaningful conversations with them, and being prepared to accept whatever outcome the relationship brings. Now you would ask, why should you do this? Because your inner radar is not going anywhere, my friend. The more you suppress it, the louder it will ring. If you manage to ignore it, you're slowing down your own progress. These are soul contracts made eons ago, and if you do not keep them now, you will have to keep them in some lifetime. You may ask then, what is free will? Free will is deciding to grow or hide behind logic. Free will is still your choice, to be brave or to run. Who do you think this decision will affect the most? Your soul's journey. Our souls take birth to evolve, and true evolution is not physical. It is soul evolution, only possible in a human form. Soul contracts help us accelerate our growth. If you ignore them, it is like taking a longer route on purpose. Even those who harm us are in soul contracts. The karmic backlog has to be cleared, and opposing forces test our growth. Do not let your logical brain stop you from exploring your soul connections. Another small disclaimer. By all of this, I do not mean just jump into a stranger's car. No. I only mean don't let fear stop you. Don't slam the door to what could be an amazingly fulfilling relationship that could enrich your life. Keep an open mind that this may or may not work. If you stop loving because you broke your heart once, you don't know what love means. Love is breaking your heart 100 times just to love again. It is the experience that our souls crave, not finality, because we will die, taking off this existing personality, and we will be born again. So there is no finality, there is only forever. In this life, you may be best friends, and in the next be born as siblings or parents and child. In this life, a soul recognition may end up in a breakup, but in another life, it might be picture perfect. Fulfill your soul's yearning to know your soul tribe, your soulmates. Honor your soul contracts. Forgive and make peace as well in this life itself. Some relationships will remain for a few years. Some will stay strong for a longer time. Some will hurt you to teach you lessons in forgiveness, and maybe one will be the key to the lock, a perfect fit. Here to stay forever. Not in the usual sense of time, but forever in a soul's definition. I hope some of you reading this have found the key to your lock. Hats off to those who are still on the lookout with an open mind, with courage to explore and attune to the inner radar. A stern message to the runners. Stop running, stop hiding, stop stalking people on social media. If you have ever felt a soul recognition, act on it. Have a conversation like a mature adult and remove the fear of rejection, because you can choose to continue on your hamster wheel and other souls will evolve and move on. They say when souls decide to take birth, they are super excited and ready to take on the bad and the ugly along with the good and the beautiful. They just want to feel alive, to fall in love, lose in love and conquer in love. Bring back that thirst for life. Be open to new people and experiences. Do not put a clause that each relationship should be amazing. But at the same time, don't stop expecting the magic. Leaving you with some wise words from Sigmund Freud. We choose not randomly each other. We meet only those who already exist in our subconscious. With that thought, signing off for today. Your host, Thorvi. Stay safe and loads of love.